Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Cadence Independent Media Production. Very special, very rare comparison episode. This is something that we've been excited about for a while and it's been made possible. We are talking about the effects of hammering on drum shells, specifically aluminum shelled snare drums. Up front, giant thanks to our friends at Offbeat Drum Co for making this possible. When we talk about comparison videos, and one of the reasons why we don't do them a whole lot is because it's really difficult to only compare one aspect of anything, because cymbals, drums, drum heads, everything has a lot of variables involved in it. And when you want to compare one aspect, you almost have to have the things custom made. What we're doing today is basically trying to answer the question of what does hammering do to a metal drum shell? In today's case, it's going to be aluminum. And every other variable from tuning, heads, wires, everything's exactly the same except for the hammering. Okay, first things first, what are the details? What are we dealing with here? 6.5 by 14 aluminum shell with wooden bearing edges on them. If you've seen previous videos talking about offbeat drums, this is sort of the recipe that they use over there. Different metals and then generally maple on the edges. We are doing 8 lugs, which is also standard for them. And we are doing power center reverse dot batters on here, 300 Snare Side heads, and 20 strand Puresound Custom Pros. Now, since this is a comparison video, not going to be a whole lot more talking about this. We're going to get into the actual comparison. This is a serious put on headphones situation, or at the very least, something better sounding than like laptop speakers or phone speakers, because these are some subtle things going on here when you're dealing with two drums that are virtually identical. Now, rather than doing a bunch of playing and then making you wait till the end of the video to hear the back-to-back, this is all going to be back-to-back because we want to actually get into the comparison. That's the whole point here. So first off, we're going to do some nice single hits and a little bit of dynamics. Of course, it goes without saying that I went far out of my way to tune these drums exactly the same. I used the Strobe Tuner app on my phone to make sure that both of the heads were as close to the same pitch between the drums as humanly possible. And we also went out of our way to A/B the tension on the snare wires to make sure that basically we were trying to just get rid of every variable that we possibly could. Now, since I'm here with the drums in the room and I'm playing them acoustically, I want to give you my impressions of having played it here rather than just listening back and things like that, because there's a lot more to this than just what goes in the microphones. We've never done anything like this before. I really had no idea what to expect. And upon playing the unhammered drum, it gave me the kind of aluminum sound. It's on the darker side. It's plenty loud, crack, a lot of tone, very fat. The harder you hit it, the bigger it sounds. All the things that we want out of a drum of this nature. With the hammered drum, I'm experiencing here both a brighter sound and also a drier sound, which to me actually feels louder and in a way has a little bit more of a satisfying feel when I'm really slamming it, whereas the unhammered one has a little more warmth to it at the lower dynamics. Upon listening to the recordings after we did all of this in the computer, some of this is translating, but they do sound closer under the microphones than they do acoustically in the room, and the actual physical sensation of playing them obviously doesn't translate through headphones. Now we're going to get into just straight up rim shots and also some cross stick. Hitting a drum super hard is going to activate the shell more. It's going to tell you more about what the shell's doing in the sound. And for my money, they're not that different, but the articulation and the sort of bloom of the note again in front of me with the hammered drum does feel brighter, louder, and faster than the other one. We also wanted to check out the dynamics of rolls, because when you're dealing with the ideas of brightness or dryness, a lot of these kind of semantic things, rolls can show you stuff that single hits just really won't. Another case where not that different in sound, fairly different in person. The drier drum, the hammered drum, was more satisfying for the rolls for me. I felt a little more articulate, especially to the edge. And the dynamics in the center also sort of were just kind of tightened up compared to the other one. So, it makes me think about the way that I choose drums sometimes in terms of what tempos I'm going to be playing. The hammered drum has a faster, brighter character overall, particularly right in front of me. All right. Let's finally hear these things in the context of a groove. Now, in context, a lot of these really subtle things, especially in the microphones, start to get swallowed up and things start to sound pretty similar, which makes sense because everything else about the drums is pretty much the same. But it bears repeating that the physical experience of playing the drums and the acoustic sound of them in front of me in the groove is different. And the dryness of the hammered shell, the slightly brighterness of that shell, at, again, the same tuning with the same wires, same everything else, is differently inspirational. I think I actually said that out loud when we were doing it. Like when I started to play the hammered one, especially with things that were a little more dense and ghost notes and stuff, it was giving me back exactly what I wanted out of it. And that was really, really exciting because with 8 lugs and a deeper drum, a lot of times you can't get that kind of articulation as easily as if it were a shallower drum, more lugs, or other variables like that. So to sum up, hammering does do things to the sound. Today, working with aluminum with wooden bearing edges, we are noticing more of an acoustic and a tactile experience changing between the drums than necessarily something under the microphones. Now, if we were getting into compression and EQ and mixing, and we also had an overarching musical context that this was supposed to go into afterward, it might lead us to choose one over the other. For my money today, I really enjoyed the hammered one just a little bit more, purely just for the physicality of playing it. It made me happy to hit it. I didn't really want to stop. It goes to show you too that like this is a dramatic looking difference on the drum, and even with all of that to look at, the differences are still pretty subtle. Thanks so much for watching. I want to take a moment to talk about why we don't do comparison videos that often. The bottom line is that they are orders of magnitude larger in terms of the workload to get this thing done. It's a lot of examples. It's a lot of fussing around and organizing things and making sure they sound exactly the same. It's a lot of stuff. And if you like this kind of thing, as we do, please consider going over to the Patreon, helping out over there. Check out the tiers, see if you can commit to being a part of one of them, because it really does make this kind of thing possible. And we have a list of comparison videos that we want to make. We were able to make this one today because Jordan at Offbeat Drum Co. actually was offering to send us these because he was experimenting with them and we had worked with him before on a snare spotlight. Similarly, if you're an independent drum builder and you're interested in being a part of comparison videos, be it woods or edges or whatever it is, reach out to us because we are really excited to do this kind of thing, and partnering with small builders who are excited about going deep on stuff like this is something that we're really excited about. We really want to do, and we just need to find the right people, the right drums, and then we can bring you basically any comparison that you can think of.